TV18 because we've been part of what's happened with the Indian startup story for the last 23 years, and there's plenty that's happened on the fintech side. You just heard Alex talk a little bit about PayPal World, and I will get into the details of that, but just a quick overview on why this conversation with Alex is important in the context of what's happening with Indian fintech. PayPal has been around for over 25 years. It's a profitable venture. It's also a venture that operates across 200 markets, 430 million customers, both on the merchant side as well as active users, and it is the largest two-sided network today. And it has plans for India, of course, not for the domestic payment segment just yet, but they are looking at investing in Indian fintech. So those of you who have an idea, Alex is your man. Perhaps we could have some interesting conversations happen here at GFF. But Alex, without further ado, let's start by talking about PayPal World. Congratulations on launching that. But I believe the origin story for how PayPal World and the UPI connection happened was in Florence when you met Dilip Asbe.
That's correct. Well, again, thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you all, and it is amazing to bring my team along here. They are just an incredible team. So yes, the beginnings of PayPal World, we had some ideas of creating interoperable wallets, right? This is part of our mission to connect the world and ensure that we are creating what the future should be. But Dilip and I were at a conference together in Florence, Italy, of all places. And we were just having a sidebar conversation, and he was telling me about the progress and the incredible expansion that UPI was going through at the time. And I was maybe 4 or 5 months into the job at PayPal. And we just started having the conversation of what would happen if we could make it simple, seamless, frictionless, and easy for our consumers and our merchants to interact together. And we both thought that was a pretty good idea, and that was really the beginning of setting off. Now, let's be transparent. The easy part are two leaders sitting in a room in the middle of Florence, Italy, going, wouldn't it be wonderful if that happened? The hard part is what the team does afterwards, from both teams coming together and working through all the challenges. But here we are on stage today, announcing the partnership, solidifying, and launching again in the coming months. So it's very exciting.
Well, certainly very exciting, but let's talk about the aspiration that you have as far as PayPal World is concerned. UPI and NPCI are just one of the partners that you've signed up with. There are a bunch of others that you have signed up with, and I would imagine more on the way. What's the aspiration? What do you hope to do with PayPal World?
So this is the vision of the world that I hope we all want to live in, right? There are domestic wallets that exist anywhere in the world. You can go to countries in almost every part of the world, and there is a domestic wallet or multiple domestic wallets that is where people are interacting. And I fundamentally believe that the future of money is going to be a domestic wallet. And so if you believe that, or a fintech wallet, so if you believe that wallets are going to be the way that people are going to interact, then it makes sense to make them interoperable. But that's just not how it works today. If you take your digital wallet and you travel to the United States, you travel to South America, you travel to China, many of these wallets won't work. And so you're stuck having to create a second digital wallet or move cash, in which case you're paying significant amount of cost, friction, and you're having to juggle, and it's just not a great experience. In addition, if you're a merchant, you're only able to take payments from local currency or from local wallets that you know. It's one of the things that PayPal has actually worked very hard on in the United States and throughout Europe, is making it as seamless as possible for merchants to accept payments from anyone. But it really is only limited to a certain portion of the world. And so if you fast forward, the vision of PayPal World is making a platform that any digital wallet can connect to, so that any consumer in the world can use their home digital wallet, where they have multiple instruments, their banks, if they have credit cards, if they have buy now, pay later, whatever they want together, and be able to travel in person, make an e-commerce transaction, or in the future, an agentic commerce transaction with the wallet they have safe, secure transactions with, but with any merchant in the world. And think about how powerful that is for merchants. Merchants around the world will now have access to billions of consumers. Billions of consumers. That is a very exciting world.
So to put it simply, a digital global wallet, that is what you envision as far as PayPal world is concerned.
That makes it seamless and frictionless for each consumer to just not have to think about it.
Not have to think about it. But, you know, since we're talking about change, let's talk about what else is changing at PayPal. And I remember that you said at an investor call that 2024 was a year of transition for PayPal as you got back to profitability. And 2025, in your words, is going to be a year of transformation. Now, for the audience sitting here, explain to us, 25 years on, what does transformation look like for PayPal as you transition from being a payments service to becoming a commerce platform? What will that entail? What will change?
Yeah, so it is a real privilege to lead a company that has a 25-year history and really is the original fintech in many ways at PayPal. This week I celebrated my 2-year anniversary at the organization, so I am still...
Congratulations.
Thank you. I made it 2 years. But one of the things that I think a lot about, and one of the reasons that drew me to PayPal, is the transformation in fintech is so fast right now. There's going to be more disruption, I believe, in the next 2, 3, 5 years than in the past 20 years combined.
On account of technology or on account...
Technology, artificial intelligence, consumer demand. I think we're just, you know, in many parts of technology, you're seeing an exponential acceleration in development. You know, I heard before, I think we were having a conversation about how many fintechs there are just in India right now.
Yeah, a couple of thousand at last count.
And so when you have thousands of fintechs in India alone, the amount of innovation is just going to accelerate. So one of the worries that I have being in a 25-year-old company is you can become complacent. We have a system that works. You could just sit back and say, hey, this system works, let's not mess with it. And I think that's a recipe for becoming yesterday's company. And so one of the first things that I did when I came into the seat was really energize the company around innovation. We're going to lead the future forward. We're going to do it as an open platform, with PayPal World being a great example of we want to bring partners together and do this with incredible partners around the world. But we want to be at the forefront. I would much rather, if you believe that disruption is going to happen, I'd much rather be the disruptor than the one being disrupted.
You know, it's important that you talk about being the disruptor as opposed to being disrupted. And I think that's a dilemma that many CEOs, especially who take on a legacy like you have of a 25-year history of protecting the past while also trying to invent the future. What's been the hardest part of the last 2 years in being able to find that balance of protecting the past but also inventing the future?
You know, they wrote an entire book about it. It is called The Innovator's Dilemma. It is one of the biggest challenges that any established organization faces. And the biggest challenge is you have existing revenue streams. You have existing customer bases. And it's very difficult to think about the future, which may actually disrupt some of those revenue streams. We're a large organization. We'll do over $32 billion in revenue next year. Some of those revenue streams may be areas that actually we need to disrupt, and we need to replace them with what the future may be. Leaning into that disruption, and this is something that whether you're a big company or whether you're a small company, you have to continue to think about what is the customer problem that you're solving. I learned very early on that you must fall in love with the customer problem, not your solution. And the challenge with a large company that has been successful is you start to fall in love with your solution. It's worked in the past. Why not just keep doing it? Well, customers' problems change. Technology changes. Demands change. Think about how much the world has changed in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. 25 years ago, when PayPal was started, the prevalence of smartphones was zero.
Yeah.
It was zero. And now there are smartphones in every pocket. My guess is in this audience alone, many of you have 2 smartphones in your pocket. And so 5 years from now, how many of us will be wearing AI glasses to conduct commerce? And so we have to be able to be thinking about what does the future hold, what is the customer problem we're trying to solve, and how will we disrupt ourselves?
So let's talk about the customer problem that you're hoping to solve today as you transition to a commerce platform. From a consumer's point of view and from a merchant's point of view, what are the priorities that you chase after today?
So one of the things that PayPal was famous for when it started was solving the challenge of a payment. And payments were very difficult 15, 20 years ago. Payments is a problem that it's not easy, but it's been solved. There are many players, we have many competitors that have solved the act of a payment. The challenge that I think has not yet been solved, that we are leaning towards now, is the end-to-end commerce. And so what does that mean? Well, if you're a consumer, you now have more options to make purchases than you ever have before. You can go online, you can go on your phone, and you can type in almost any set of keywords, or you can open up your agentic app and speak a few words and get dozens and dozens and dozens of options. But how do you know whether it's the right product, whether it's the right price, whether it's from a merchant that you trust? How do you know that your preferences of whether it's a local small business have been captured? So this is all personalization that I think we can lean into, that is a part of the commerce journey for a consumer. On the merchant side, how do we enable small businesses to be able to find the right customer for their right next purchase? How do we enable them to leverage the data, leverage the scale of the billions of users that we've now opened up for them in PayPal World, to be able to find the right customer in a cost-effective way, to be able to continue to sell and grow their business. So these are commerce challenges, not just payment challenges. And for me, that's the future of PayPal.
Yes, if commerce is the future as far as payments is concerned, how do you address the personalization aspect that you spoke of? I would imagine that you're going to leverage the data that you already sit on, both from a consumer's point of view as well as the merchant's point of view. But what's been the hardest part of being able to crack the commerce challenge as you go after personalized experiences, both on both sides of the network?
You know, the advances in artificial intelligence and data networks is making this a lot easier. But first, it's about building trust, because the data is not ours. The data is our consumers. And we've had to have very transparent conversations with our consumers that we think we can build and enable incredible commerce journeys for them by leveraging personalization if they trust us. And the beauty of being a 25-year-old company is we have built up trust over decades now. And so as we've started to roll out some of our personalized offerings, consumers are actually opting in and saying, yes, I trust PayPal with my data. I want a better experience than just my generic experience online. And I will trust you with my data to be able to do it. Now, obviously, we take it very seriously. It's protected, it's anonymized, but connecting a merchant and a consumer together in a personalized experience is just a magical experience for both parties.
So initial days, what are the milestones that you're working towards as far as this transformation is concerned? In terms of numbers, where do you believe you're going to be able to hit the milestones that you hope in the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? What's the target for you?
You know, I've learned that you need to have big ambitions for the future, but you need to have KPIs that you hit every quarter. And so without doing our earnings call right here on stage.
Your earnings call is a little while away.
It is, but the quiet period has begun. So without going into everything, look, we are seeing acceleration in customer growth, which is very exciting. So we have KPIs around customer growth, both for our PayPal product as well as our Venmo product, which is very popular in the United States. And soon we'll have KPIs for bringing consumers on for PayPal World as well. We have different product segments. So payment volume is something that we look at. We have a branded experience. If any of you are familiar with the PayPal button, that's a branded experience that we look at. We're seeing buy now, pay later as an acceleration. Yeah. That is particularly in a younger demographic, a big move towards buy now, pay later, so we're seeing acceleration there. And we have these KPIs in every geography that we play in the 200 countries around the world. So this is not a, you can wait for 3 years and hope that it takes off. This is holding our team accountable for the here and now. And I'll give you another example, agentic commerce. right? Agentic commerce is something that we're leaning into. It's a potential disruptor, but it's also something we want to lead in. And so we were the first company with a remote MCP server to allow merchants and consumers to be able to connect and actually open up a catalog for agentic commerce to happen. So we're leaning into the future as we speak.
Well, speaking about the future, let's talk about PayPal's future. In India, of course, you've done this partnership with NPCI and with UPI. The question that I know you're often asked is, why not domestic in India? Is it because it's a competitive market where you're not the first mover by a long shot? Is that what holds you back? I mean, why the decision to not look at the domestic market in India?
Look, we have many markets around the world that we play in.
But it's an important market clearly for you, and even from a talent point of view, it's your second largest employee base.
It's a critical market, which is why I'm on stage with an incredible partnership with NCPI International. Right? I mean, there is a reason that we are here and that Ritesh and I were on stage half an hour ago with UPI as the first wallet. That shows how important the India market is to us and to the entire world. And you know, India, the way I think about it is it's not just a domestic market. Everywhere I travel around the world, there are remittances where India plays a critical role. There's commerce where India plays a critical role. And we've actually, part of what we established ourselves with at PayPal is the ability to do cross-border payments and the ability to connect the world together. So I would rather have us spend our time and energy creating those connections across the world and let incredible products that consumers domestically know and love win the market here and enable us to connect them around the world.
But, you know, as an outsider looking at the Indian market and what's happening in the Indian payment space today, what looks most exciting to you? What has surprised you even?
I think what I just touched on, the cross-border payments, is something that I think has surprised me. Even I just spent the last week and a half traveling through the Middle East, and every location, every conversation I had, India came up as a location where there was just movement of talent, movement of money, commerce opportunities. Whenever I travel through Europe, India comes up, and the same with the United States. And so, you know, India is becoming, if not already here, as an innovator and a leader globally. And that's why it is so important for PayPal to play a role and connect India to the rest of the world.
Well, that does deserve a big round of applause for all of you in this room for what you've been able to achieve in the past decade of really putting India on the global fintech map. Plenty of excitement in this room, lots of young people pitching their ideas. You said that PayPal Ventures is open to looking at exciting ideas, including here in India. Are you actively scouting?
Yeah, we have a PayPal Ventures arm. I don't know if they're in the room, but many years ago, we actually were one of the first investors in Pine Labs, which I know is an incredible solution.
All set to IPO as well.
Which will be wonderful for our PayPal Ventures as well. So, look, this is a market. Our venture arm is really about finding the best and the brightest in emerging markets for us. And, you know, we get a lot of, you know, I get to spend a lot of time domestically in the United States with startups, but we want a venture arm that can be out in markets where, you know, I'm not necessarily all the time. And so if there are incredible startups and fintech startups in this market, we want to have the conversation.
You know, you brought up Pine Labs, and it's one of the companies that's looking at IPOing, you know, shortly, in fact. Profitability, and I think that's the question that's also being asked of Indian fintechs, and we've started to see that being delivered. Some are now listed, and many hoping to list in the near future. Monetization, with especially the transition to commerce, what kind of avenues does it open up in terms of being able to draw in incremental revenue and boost profitability? Yeah,
so there's a couple of pieces to the question there. The first is, I've run my own startups as well. It is good to be pushed on profitability. As a startup, it is important. You have to have a sense as to how to monetize and how to drive profitability over time. You may delay it intentionally in order to scale, but if you don't have a path to profitability, it's only a matter of time until the cycle comes, and then there's a challenge. For us, we are looking for obviously at the scale that we're at, we have to look for large opportunities. Commerce opens up new avenues for us. We've launched an advertising business, which is a new business for PayPal, but allows us to, again, leverage that personalization, enabling merchants to be able to leverage personal data to target the right customer at the right time. There are many successful companies that have used advertising as a monetization lever and a growth lever. That's just one example for us.
AI, and I think everyone's talking about what an AI world is going to mean, what an agentic world is going to mean. Have you started to see the benefits of that for the business in incremental ways already?
We sure have. A couple of ways. First, just internally for how we operate, we use AI across the entire organization. Every function, everybody in the organization. We actually, just 2 months ago, held our first PayPal AI Summit, where we took every single employee across the organization and walked them through access to AI models, access to orchestration layers, access to information and examples of how they could leverage AI to be more effective and efficient in their roles. And the feedback we're getting from employees is just exceptional. The AI is enabling them to have superpowers that they didn't have before.
Like what?
Oh, the ability, I had sales reps being able to say, I don't have to wait for engineers to come build pipelines for me. I can just type it into my AI agent and actually build my own technology applications on their own.
So should the engineers be worried?
Absolutely not. They now don't have to build sales pipelines for sales reps. They get to build great applications for consumers that they're excited about, and they're getting more effective and efficient as well. So for me, AI for our employees is just giving them incredible powers and making them even more effective. And then we're leveraging AI for our consumers and our merchants, and enabling consumers to be able to, again, agentically just search for the right product, use natural language to be able to say, I'm going to a wedding in a certain location, and have the AI understand the weather, understand what other purchases they've made, understand what's in their closet already, and be able to give them a great recommendation is just an advanced commerce experience that is really wonderful for consumers. And for merchants, being able to get access to not just all the consumers on PayPal World, but being able to target their products and services to the right consumer at the right time, we think AI is going to be a real opportunity for
call it the fireside chat coming your way. So once again, all the curious
Kind of people that you hire, what
guys that are still standing right around, go ahead and please take your seats.
product and a service and an innovation perspective?
I think speed and velocity of innovation is a requirement right now in this industry. And so, the talent we're bringing in, the good news is with new technology, the talent we're hiring is already AI native. They've been using AI and will be, every new university class that graduates will be using AI. And so it's just going to become a But I also think that's what consumers expect now. These cycles of years and years before new product releases come out, I think is yesterday's game. We have to be able to move quickly.
Well, talking about moving forward, and I think one of the examples that I want to talk to you about is what you've been able to do with Venmo. And I think that's something that this audience would like to hear about. What's been the biggest learning of being able to crack Venmo, which has been a category creator almost, which has sort of become a verb in many, many ways. What's been the biggest lesson and learning from Venmo? And, could we expect Venmo in India at some point in the future?
Yeah, so Venmo, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, is started as a peer-to-peer payment system in the United States. It's growing incredibly quickly and continues to scale. And I think the unlock for us was really, again, going back to the customer problem. Why were customers using the product? And when you go and you sit and you talk to customers that use Venmo, oftentimes it's them interacting with their friends or family after they've had a shared experience. So an example would be, I go out to lunch with my friends, one of my friends pays the bill, and I Venmo them. Again, it's a verb now. I Venmo them, $10 for splitting the meal. So understanding that example allowed us to then work backwards and say, well, if you're using Venmo to split the bill, could you use Venmo to actually create that experience up front? And when you think about it, now you start to open up the ability to make payments online. You open up things like debit cards so that you can actually make the payment in person at the restaurant. And then we have a long roadmap of innovation that is all about the shared experiences that will be coming. So I'm not going to give you the full roadmap right now, including where we may or may not launch Venmo in the future, but right now, if you get to the US, download it. It's an incredible product.
Well, since we're talking about the US, let me also get a pulse check from you on what's happening as far as consumer spending is concerned, not just in the US, but also across the other markets that you operate in. There has been a resilience that we've seen through all the uncertainty and the volatility. The headlines may be screaming different things, but consumer spending has held up. What are the indicators that you're picking up on in terms of consumer preferences, where they're spending, how they're choosing to spend today?
Yeah, so again, there is an incredible amount of noise in the world right now, but consumers are resilient. And it's actually very inspiring to see how consumers manage through and block out the noise. I think the only big shift that I would highlight is something I touched on earlier, which is a shift away from debt and towards buy now, pay later. And again, buy now, pay later is a much shorter term, much lower value ability to spread payments across. And that is actually a sizable shift that we're seeing, particularly in a younger demographic. So it's really away from credit cards as their vehicle for credit and towards buy now, pay later.
So buy now, pay later is the big shift that you're seeing as far as the younger demographic and the younger cohort is concerned. What are some of the other interesting trends that are emerging that you intend to tap into and perhaps this audience here could focus on as well?
There's a lot of travel that's opening up now, right? I think there was a hunger coming out of the pandemic to actually get back out into the world, which is why cross-border transactions, things like PayPal World, where people can now travel the world with their domestic wallet and make the purchase. Those are the types of trends I would think about. So, obviously, whenever you start something, you want to solve the local problem, but local problems are becoming global because it's how consumers want to spend. They don't look at themselves just as within a certain community, right? I mean, think about how big of a shift that's been. 10, 15 years ago, people bought from their local community. Now they can go online and buy from anywhere in the world, and they want to travel anywhere in the world. And so those are the types of trends that we're thinking about.
You talked about bringing the culture of innovation back and bringing that mojo back as far as PayPal is concerned, and you've spent the last 2 years being able to do that. What does it take to recreate a culture of innovation? And I use that very carefully.
Yeah. Well, first, you don't forget where you came from. I stand on the shoulders of giants, and there are many leaders and many incredible, talented folks that have been at PayPal before. But I think in order to create any culture of innovation, you need an ownership culture. You need a culture where every single employee across the organization is obsessed about the customer and feels like they have an impact. We talk a lot about our mission. We talk a lot about who we serve, the customers that we serve. And I will tell you, in the 25,000 employees that work at PayPal, many of which are in the audience today, they jump out of bed in the morning with their heart beating faster, off to serve consumers and small businesses around the world. And so when you have passionate employees with a clear mission, clear priorities, and an ownership culture where they feel like their work can make a difference, innovation comes.
It's interesting that you talked about communication because I remember one of the things that you chose to prioritize when you became CEO was bring transparency back much more into the forefront. Transparency within the organization is one aspect, but transparency with the consumer, because it's built on the currency of trust, is another aspect altogether. How have you been able to focus and balance both, transparency within and outside as well?
I don't think they're two different things. I think being clear what's important to us both internally and being clear what's important to the customer and having a very clear and honest conversation is paramount, right? We make decisions that are principle-based and customer-backed, and we shouldn't be afraid to tell consumers how we make decisions. If you look at any of the notifications that we send out about changes to our terms of service, changes to our privacy policy, changes to our products and services, we're as transparent as I think we can possibly be with consumers so that they understand the why behind the change. We talk about it internally, we talk about it externally. So I don't think you can operate an organization where you have an internal narrative and then a consumer narrative. I think it has to be one narrative that you're confident and willing to stand up on stage and share.
Speaking of changes, what we have seen here in India, specifically in the last few years, is there's been some back and forth on regulation, especially when we talk about regulating fintech companies. And I would imagine that we're back to some sort of an equilibrium at this point in time where companies feel that they can go back out and innovate and try new stuff. How's the regulatory environment in the world today? Because you operate in different jurisdictions across 200 different markets. We've always seen this innovation and regulation balance, but what are you seeing today from a regulator's point of view in enabling inclusion, in pushing fintechs as well? How different is India from many of the other markets that you operate in?
It's complicated. Not India. The regulatory environment globally is complicated because it's just different. And it makes sense. Every region around the world needs to make their own regulatory decisions. Some, there's incredible private-public partnership. Some, they're still moving through it. As a global organization, we have just an amazing set of government relations teams and employees that work to make sure that we can serve what the government need is as well as the consumer need in every part of the world. If I were to just sum it up, though, I do think there is a shift towards ensuring that a global world can exist. I don't see very many countries that are trying to lock down commerce and trying to just keep keep constraints on consumers and merchants. They absolutely want to protect. And money is important, right? I mean, if you think about money, it is the thing that gives consumers and merchants the most anxiety. So it is important to protect it. It also needs to be able to flow. And so we work very hard with regulators to meet their needs, but also push the envelope to help consumers.
So let me end then by asking you about the world that we're living in, cryptos, stable coins. What does all of that mean as far as PayPal is concerned? The US has moved the legislation. We've got the Genius Act now pushing all of these commodities. How do you see a world where PayPal operates with cryptos and stable coins, etc.?
I would just go back to what I said earlier. I think there's going to be more disruption in just the natural state of the financial system over the next 3, 5, 10 years than the last 20 years. Stablecoins, agentic commerce, all of this is going to contribute to that disruption, and we'll be at the forefront. Our job as a leader in this space is to push the innovation, partner with incredible partners like we just did this morning, and continue to write the rules of what the next chapter of fintech will be.
And a last message to India?
Well, thank you for having us. Thank you for being incredible partners with PayPal. We are here to stay, and we are here to partner and create an incredible world together. Thank you.
Alex, many, many thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Alex, and congratulations once again to the PayPal team. We wish you the very best of luck with your plans here in India. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Alex Chris, and thank you very much, Shireen, for spearheading this session for us so beautifully. They often say that to get the right answers, one needs to ask the right questions, and we were indeed in the able hands of Shireen Bhan. Thank you so much again for joining us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now this is where I'm going to be requesting you all to continue being seated. We're going to be expecting a lot of movement here and there, and that's bound to happen. That's why we call it a fest. But that being said, for those who have just entered inside the hall, grab those seats right away. And also in a short while, after a couple of minutes, of course. We'll also be having the presence of the Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji, who will be joining us in a short while. But before that, I'm going to request all of you to please take your seats. The first few rows, we're going to request you to please keep them empty. We're going to request you to very quickly grab the seats right behind. The first few rows that are facing the podium, my podium, the ones in black color, all the seats that are color-coded black, I request you to please vacate these seats. Please empty these seats. The ones that are color-coded black, I request and please kindly oblige as we have protocol to follow. So I'm going to be requesting our delegates, the ones who are seated right ahead on the seats that were color-coded black, please do take your seats to the left or right behind. Please kindly do so, but please very quickly take your seats. You know, the one good thing about a discussion is that there's always another group discussion that follows, be it with the speakers, be it with the moderators, or amongst ourselves as peers. But that being said, it is a fest. I can see that everyone's joining in to be part of the conversation. Let's do that really quick. All the ones who just entered inside the hall, let me guide you to your left. We've got a lot of seats right available there, so please go ahead and occupy the seats to the left. The ones that are color-coded black, I request the delegates to please either move behind or move to your left. Thank you. Meanwhile, we'd also like to take the opportunity to thank our diamond partners Meta, NABARD and Scienzy, Credit Insights partner TransUnion Sibyl, and Last Mile Fintech partner Ruger Fintech. So that being said, we're also gearing up for the next keynote address, and this is all about from Paris to Mumbai, connecting continents through finance and technology. That's our next session coming up. If I could please request all of you to very quickly take your seats.